Hey guys, I'm Effie Jo Stock, author of the Shadows of Light series, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are once again diving into the obscure characters and world building in my series, The Shadows of Light. Book 1, Child of the Dragon Prophecy, Book 2, Heir of Two Kingdoms, and today we are going to talk about Dalton. Big warning, spoiler alert all over the place. I'm going to be spoiling Heir of Two Kingdoms, Child of the Dragon Prophecy, books that haven't been written yet, books in the series, things that probably will never even get put in the series. I'm spoiling all of it. All of it's just dumped out on the page. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Effie Jo Stock, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Like all the blood, or if they didn't think there was enough. Time has run out for the Duvaharians. The end of this life is near, and the Emperor is preparing his return. So, I know some of you guys might be wondering, but Dalton's not obscure. He's literally one of the main characters. And I agree, he is one of the main characters. And he is so important as one of the main characters. But Dalton also has a role sort of as this obscure side character because we don't really know much about him. And honestly, there's like a lot leading up to him that causes him to make the decisions that he does and say some things that he does that we don't really get to see yet. At least in Child of the Dragon Prophecy and Heir of Two Kingdoms. Now, usually this is where I would say, oh, but we can't understand Dalton until we know where he came from. But basically, Dalton's actually pretty much always been Dalton. He is one of the original characters. He's pretty stereotypical, like, mentor, guardian kind of guy, although he has a lot more going for him than just that. But that's basically where he started out. He's always been Dalton. He's always lived with the humans. He's always been banished from Duvaharia. He's always been friends of Stephania's parents, Andromeda and Drox, and he's always raised Stephania after the Centaurs raised her. That's it. That's Dalton. But is it? I think there's more. So the first time we ever get to really see any part of Dalton's real backstory is in Child of the Dragon Prophecy, in those chapters that I added, which are like from the sort of past where Stephania's a child with Dalton, and then also present time when she's older with Dalton. And one of those chapters happens to mention, basically in a weird roundabout way, that Dalton has been banished from Duvaharia. And, well, that's kind of a big deal. Especially in a time where there aren't many Dragon Riders left, they need all of the manpower they can get at the Dragon Palace in Duvaharia. Why would they even consider banishing someone, especially somebody who was the advisor to the Lord and Lady Drox and Andromeda? Why would this happen? Now, it actually has everything to do with Dalton's worldview and beliefs. So we get to see a lot in Child of the Dragon Prophecy and also in Heir of Two Kingdoms that Dalton is kind of an atheist. Even though he believes in magic and he understands that there are some kind of like higher power sort of things going on in the world, he doesn't really believe that there's a god or that anybody's out there like looking out for us or anything like that. And if you know anything about Duvaharian lore, that's kind of a big deal because they are all about the Great Lord, the Golden Age, the Creator, dragons and their riders are the symbol of the Creator and Rasa. I mean, it goes on and on. They're pretty fanatically religious people. I mean, just in general, they're really passionate. So then you hand religion to the Duvaharians and they just run with it. That being said, Dalton is an intellect. He's a historian, he's a cartographer, he's a teacher, he loves knowledge, and he takes in knowledge about everything. So it kind of makes sense that he's an atheist because he sees all of the religions and he sees how everybody's super fanatic about their religion. But again, what does this have to do with him being banished? Well, as the Lord and Lady of the Dragon Palace, as the literal parents of the fulfillment of the Dragon Prophecy, which was supposedly given to the Duvaharians by the Great Lord, Drox and Andromeda are huge into the Creator and the Great Lord. So, again, why would they have Dalton as their advisor? Well, it goes even farther back than this. Andromeda and Dalton actually used to both be really close friends, and when they were growing up in the Dragon Palace. And then she meets Drox, and they're all friends together, but her beliefs differ a lot from Dalton's. Now that kind of eventually drives her apart from Dalton, and she ends up marrying Drox, whose beliefs fall in line much closer with hers, but they always kind of remain friends. That is until Dalton snaps. Now, without spoiling too much of Dalton's story, because this is going to work into the backstory, sort of like prequel companion novel that I have written for Drox and Andromeda, so I don't want to spoil too much. Dalton does some things that are pretty inexcusable, and which caused him to be banished. But I will say it has everything to do with the fact that he is an absolute on-fire atheist, and that does not align well with Andromeda and Drox's visions, especially when their child is literally the dragon prophecy's fulfillment. But of course, that begs the question, why on earth would they send Stefania to Dalton? At the time, of course, Dalton is the only Duvarharian who is not living at Duvarharia. And at that time as well, Thaddeus was primarily attacking Duvarharia. So if she was sent anywhere else, she had a better chance of being kept under the radar, especially by a Duvarharian who was able to suppress her magic. They had a couple other candidates they thought about sending her away with, but they got to thinking about it, and there were worse problems with a specific candidate. I'm not going to spoil that. But they ended up going with Dalton because despite the fact that they have differing views and opinions, he is still a good man with a good heart, and he did always love and prioritize family over anything else. And Andromeda knows everything about him, and even though they were forced to banish him because of his actions, they understood where he was coming from and where his heart truly lay, and they felt Stefania would still be safe with him. Now, this causes Dalton to be an extremely unique character. He loves Stefania like she's his own child. Stefania is the daughter of his oldest, closest friends. He has been entrusted with this care of her despite what he's done. It feels like a sort of redemption to him, and he wants to do the best that he absolutely can, especially in the wake of Drox and Andromeda's death, and Stefania has nobody else. And yet Dalton, of anybody else, knew her parents better than anyone. So he really has this chance to raise this child in a loving home and give her an education that might not have been allowed at the Dragon Palace just because it is more strict on religion. Now, as he's gotten a little older and he does have a daughter and all of the prophecy and stuff, his heart is a little bit softened to religion, so he's not so much of a fanatic about it, but it does allow Stefania to have this open mind of don't believe everything that everybody tells you. Just because somebody's in a place of power doesn't mean they're right. So when she comes back to Trans Falls in Heir of Two Kingdoms, she doesn't buy into everything that everybody tells her. Arnigal's telling her the corrupt magic is bad, don't have anything to do with that, and she's like, well, I don't know if it is all bad, and it gives her this different perspective on it, which allows her to have a more open mentality when she meets the character Xavier, the Guardian Wolf, later in the book, who also tells her she needs to keep learning for herself and understanding things that come up that no one else knows about, that she needs to dive into and understand, especially when she finds the Shadows of Light armor. Dalton is an excellent candidate as a guardian to her because he doesn't totally just like throw the armor away when he's like, Thaddeus used to be a Shadows of Light and they're a horrible cult sect. He's like, well, just think about it and understand that where it came from and make these decisions for yourself. So as Stefania's guardian, he could not have been a more loving, perfect parental figure who actually, instead of squishing religion in her by being an atheist, he allows her to have a more open mind about things and this idea that some people are actually wrong about what they believe in just because they don't understand everything. And so it kind of propels her into this spiritual journey that really shapes the later part of the series. And to anyone who is wondering, who has read Heir of Two Kingdoms and knows that Dalton leaves her, yes, he does come back in the series. Yes, he does get to come back into Duvarharia. Some things change, some things happen, but he does get to come back, and we do get to learn a little bit more about his story, and the relationship and the redemption is honestly just beautiful. So if you started reading my series and you're wondering what the heck Dalton is doing and why he's so important, why he's been banished, that is why. He's one of my absolute favorite characters. I just love the way that he and Stefania interact. I love how much he loves and cares for her and has raised her to the best of his abilities and just supports her full-heartedly. And I think he's a really important character, and I cannot wait to write the books that have his backstory in them. So a new piece of writing advice to take away from this today: even if you have a main character, they don't have to just be cut and dry. especially if they're like a main supporting character where they're not like the main character or the villain. They're there, they're important, but they're kind of set in their role. They don't need to be set in their role. Think about their actions, think about the things that they believe in, and then build on from that. What caused them to be like that? What journey in their life brought them to be this supporting character for your main character? They're main characters in their own stories as well. So even if you have a main character and you think, gosh, you know, they just feel kind of dead anyway, even though they're supposed to be important, just start thinking about what caused them to be like that and where their very unique personality and take on life can take the series. So if you are as excited as me about this series and the characters within them, and you want to dive into a world that is full of life, full of complexity and depth, then do follow me, subscribe, like, let me know in the comments below if you like this video. Go buy my books, maybe, please. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to make more of these videos, and I appreciate you guys supporting me on this as we go along. And the next video we're going to be doing in this Who Is series is Article. And this is always a very, very big one. So if you're excited to hear more about Article, then definitely follow for more. Thank you guys so much for watching, and may the sun smile upon your presence. Bye!